Welcome to another episode of Let Go and Lead, where we discuss the new realities of leadership with pioneers, provocateurs, and passionate leadership champions. My guest today is Bonnie St. John, Paralympian, best-selling author, and CEO of Blue Circle Leadership. I'm excited to speak with Bonnie about her experiences competing at the Olympic level and what lessons can be applied to business. I'm also curious to hear what she learned while researching and writing several books. Bonnie knows how to thrive through adversity, and she's someone who can help get our minds geared for success. So let's get comfortable and let's get ready to let go and lead. Well, hi, Bonnie. Welcome to the Let Go and Lead podcast. I'm so glad to have you join us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. We're gonna have a good time.
Oh, I'm sure we're going to have a great time. This is going to be a fascinating conversation. You have such an interesting story. I mean, you're an Olympic medalist. You graduated with honors from Harvard and became a Rhodes Scholar. You've written 7 books. Wow, that's amazing. Many on personal development, resilience, and overcoming challenges. And I'm just sure there's so many ways we can go, but before we get started, I think I see medals peeking out there on your wardrobe. Can you show us your medals?
There you go. Thank you for asking. It's 2 bronze and a silver medal in ski racing at the Paralympics in Innsbruck, Austria. So they've got see a picture of a
Oh,
one-legged skier
yeah.
on that side
Wow.
and, the logo from the Paralympics on that side.
So fantastic. What an accomplishment. Well, you've had many accomplishments, and I know there's quite a story about overcoming adversity and not just overcoming it, but really thriving. I know even as a child, you'd shown remarkable resilience and determination. And I'd just love to hear a little bit about the story of the young Bonnie St. John.
It's funny, my mother tells a story about me being in my crib even when I was just barely learning to walk, and my legs were uneven then, that the growth was stunted in my right leg, so I would put one of my feet on my teddy bear and to even up my feet to be able to stand, so I was adapting even as a kid to be able to do that. And all my life, I've had to do that. And it's neat because it's kind of a skill that you learn that you just have to adapt. You have to find ways, whether it's your teddy bear or something else in your life, to help you stand up. Um, and then when I was growing up, I had to strategize. I remember even dodgeball, like playing dodgeball on the playground. I realized that I could instead of running around the edges, which is what people tended to do to not get caught, if I ran through the middle, it's a shorter distance and it's scarier to do it, but I could keep up with the other kids if I did it. So I was always trying to figure things out, and I think that that helped me because it challenged my brain, my thinking, my strategizing to be able to do that to keep up with the other kids.
Yeah, so let's just back up for our listeners because you actually had your leg amputated at age 5,
That's
as
right.
I understand it. Is that
Yeah.
right? And what actually led to that?
Well, the growth was stunted in my legs. So when I was born, my mother always says my legs looked completely normal. But then as I grew, the right leg didn't grow as much, and so they became more and more different the bigger that I got. But it was hard, and she said it was really hard for her because your baby is born and looks normal, but then the doctors say, "Oh, we're going to have to amputate her leg," and she thought, "Oh no, it looks fine." But, the more I grew, the more different they became, and eventually, we amputated my leg.
And was the amputation required for a health reason or
Well, what it was is if your leg's not gonna grow, it's not gonna serve the function it's supposed to serve, so the amputation was to allow me to wear a prosthesis, an artificial leg.
Oh, I
Does that
see.
make sense?
Yeah,
So,
no, that
yeah,
makes
so
total sense. Yeah, no,
if
thank
it's
you for
short,
clarifying that.
yeah, you can't walk on it normally, so I needed a replacement.
And, that's really explains, of course, why you're a Paralympian. And you mentioned already you won a silver and 2 bronzes, which are just amazing. You were also the first African American to win in the Winter Olympics. I think that's incredible too.
Yeah, you don't think about that, but, Black people tend to be more in running and summer sports and things like that and jumping, and not so much in the skiing, the luge and things like that. And so I was the only African American on the team, and it was pretty different. It was a difficult time.
What lessons do you think you've learned from your athletic career that would apply now in terms of what you're doing?
I had to really learn how to, uh, mix in with people who look different than me, and sometimes I got teased and picked on and laughed at, and I had to learn to, be magnanimous about that, is to be able to, laugh with people and get along and not take it personally, when I got teased for being different. When I went to the Paralympics, I was the 3rd ranked one-legged skier on the US team, and they only had 3 one-legged women on the team, so being the 3rd ranked one-legged woman was, meant that I just barely made it onto the team. So, I was really excited to be on the team. I had worked for years, I had raised money. I grew up in San Diego where there's no snow, so I had to move, away to train, move away from my family. So I'd been through a lot to make it on the team, and no one expected me to beat the other 2 girls, right? I just barely made it as the 3rd ranked member, and so, people it was nice to do, but people didn't really expect me to win. So, when I came down the first run of the slalom race at the Paralympics and I was in 1st place, it was an upset. Nobody expected me to beat, anybody else. I was the 3rd ranked member, and so everybody was stunned. But it takes 2 runs combined time to win the medal. Do you know what I mean by that? It's you don't
Right,
win it on 1.
you have to go a second time. Yep.
You have to go a second time. I had to get up and go do it again, and they changed the course and everything. So I'm number 1 in the world. I was not expecting it all. I go for this 2nd run, and the course has changed. They always change it. It's a new course. The old course gets all chewed up, so they have to set a new course. But I had heard that there was a spot on the course where women were crashing in the training runs, and I needed to stay standing and have a good solid run so I could win the gold medal. So there I was in the starting gate, and the race official counts down 3, 2, 1, and go. And I was hoping for that gold medal, thinking, wow, before I had thought it wasn't even possible, and all of a sudden now it's possible, and I just was so excited. I was skiing down. I got to where I could see the finish line, and thought, I'm going to win, and I fell. Can you believe it? So here you are in this wonderful position. You have the potential to win. You're so close. You can see the finish line, and I fell. There was a dangerous icy spot on the course. I ski with one leg, and I slipped and I fell. So I was so disappointed, but I got up and got over the finish line. And, you know, I was so disappointed. I just didn't think that it was gonna work. But as it turned out, a lot of the other one-legged women skiers had the same problem that I did in this, icy, dangerous spot. Everybody was falling. And so I still managed to finish in 3rd place because a number of other women also fell and got up. And so, the medals that I'm wearing now, the bronze that I'm wearing was from that slalom race, and, it wouldn't have happened if I had given up, though. If I had fallen and then thought, "Well, it's over, it's done," and, went and cried and licked my wounds. You had to have the belief, you have to do your best no matter what, and that was the hard thing. So, the woman who won that race, it turns out she also fell and got up, and so I wasn't the only one, and, if I had just given up, it would have been over. But, because I kept, just doing my best no matter what, that's what made all the difference.
And I've heard you talk about in the past that one of the lessons there is that she fell, but she got up faster, and the importance of rebounding.
Yeah, and so she won because okay, so if you think about that, we both raced the 1st run, and I was the faster skier. In the 2nd run, we both fell down and got up. So how did she win? She must have gotten up faster than I did. And so she didn't hesitate. She didn't feel bad about it like I did. She got up faster than I did. So whoever thinks of winning a race not just by skiing faster, but by getting up faster.
Well, I just think that's just such an incredible metaphor for life, though, really, right? We all fall down all the time, and it's all about getting back up. Yeah.
It absolutely has been a lesson that I have applied over and over and over in my life, that it's really about getting back up and getting back in the game, even when you don't feel like it, even when you're mad, "Why did I fall? I shouldn't have fallen." But being able to push that aside, get up, and get back in the race as fast as you can, whether it's, a bad grade in school or something that happens at work or something that happens in your community, anything that can knock you down and throw your attitude off, can you recover quickly and just get back in the game?
Yeah, I'm an equestrian, and it's all about getting back on the horse. Right?
Absolutely.
But, your story is such an amazing visual, I just love it. Ever since I heard it the first time, I always think of that whenever I'm facing adversity, of just thinking of you on that ski slope and just the getting back up.
And skiing with one leg, it's crazy,
No, I can't even
to do
imagine,
it.
and this really leads to my next question, which is, how did a young girl with one leg, living in California with no snow, decide, "I wanna be a skier"?
It does sound crazy, doesn't it? Um,
I
well,
think it sounds fabulous.
what happens is it's running is hard when you have one leg. So I was growing up with one leg. So most sports require a lot of running, right? Soccer, football, anything. And so skiing was a sport that amputees do well at. And so I thought if I was going to do a sport, this is one I could do. And I knew a lot of people who did with one leg. And I thought, gosh, I'd really love to be able to do that. But again, I'm in San Diego. And so I started going up on the weekends up to the mountains where the snow is and, skiing and racing with other amputees, but then I got pretty good at it, so I moved to Colorado and, Lake Tahoe and, different places to be able to train with other skiers, and ultimately, that's how I became competitive.
And what after you won those 3 medals, did you retire from competing, or
I tried to stay in it, but it was very difficult. I was at Harvard, and, it was pretty hard to balance the studying and the skiing,
no?
and so after trying a few times, one winter, I just said, "You know what? This is really not gonna work. I've gotta choose," and I chose Harvard. I chose finishing my education and going to work, but, it was difficult, but I had a good run and, really was glad that I got the experience of competing.
It's so interesting too because now you're an author, which I think is fascinating. 7 books, that's incredible. And I just think about the different energy, or I imagine there's a different energy between being a competitive skier and being an author. What's that like?
Just a little bit. The thing is I've always been a big reader. Books were sort of my, what do you say, my escape, my support when I was growing
Uh,
up, when kids were teasing me or, when I couldn't run and, do what other kids did, I was always reading. I was reading on the playground. So I loved books, and so to write books for me was the ultimate, to get to create something that I loved so much. And so, I started writing books, and, I wrote a book with my daughter, I wrote a book with my husband. It's books are my family.
Quite the family affair, I guess, right? Doing this all together. What was that like collaborating?
Because I love writing books, writing books with my daughter, writing a book with my daughter or writing a book with my husband is like, the best journey for me. And what we did was we picked out things we were interested in. So with my daughter, I wrote How Great Women Lead, and so it's a journey that we take to meet great women leaders. And so she and I go and meet, the president of Liberia and, the, chairman of Deloitte, all kinds of amazing women. Gina Davis, do you remember Gina
Oh,
Davis,
yeah,
the
of
actress?
course. I love Gina
She's an
Davis, yeah.
activist. Yeah, and so we would pick out people that we really wanted to meet and ask them about leadership and what did they know about leadership, what did they learn about leadership, And so we had this incredible time over the course of a little over a year, meeting these amazing women and interviewing them and writing about them and putting it in the book. So that was one. And then with my husband, I did micro resilience. So we talked about, what does it take to be resilient? And we went and sought out people who could give us tools for how to do that.
So let's talk a little bit about what you learned from each of those experiences. So why don't we start with how great women lead? What were some of the themes you saw there?
Gosh, the president of Liberia was such a moving experience to get to talk to her, and she told us about some of the times that she had faced danger, that she had to overcome all kinds of things, being the president of Liberia, different attacks and, different possibilities. Who else did we talk to? The chairman of Deloitte, we talked to, trying to think of who else is in that book. Gina Davis was amazing too. She not only is an actress, but she has been really active with the UN, working on women's issues. She's taken her celebrity and really used it
Yeah,
to make a difference
yeah.
in a lot of ways. And so that was exciting to get to meet her. She's so down to earth. We were in Los Angeles in a pizza parlor, talking and eating pizza, and she's just a really great human being. So that I think that was one of the messages was a lot of these women, they do leadership in different ways. There wasn't one cookie cutter way to say, "Oh, this is how women lead." They really just bring themselves to it, what they're good at, and what they can do and what they believe in and their values, and use that to create a way for them to make a difference as a leader.
I do several projects with my daughters as well, and I'm really curious, what did you see your daughter get out of that? It must have been wonderful as a mom just to watch what she was learning and what she was contributing, I'm sure.
It really was, I think one of the things is it exposed her assumptions about leadership, and I didn't know what her assumptions were about leadership. She didn't know. And it was things like, assuming that all leaders were the same, and what we saw in this project was that they were very, very different. It depends on their personality and their skills and what they're good at and what they like, and that she loved realizing that leadership wasn't just one thing that you did, it was taking yourself into the equation and figuring out, how you can make a difference as a leader. And what you can do is different than what Hillary Clinton can do, and so you need to kind of figure that out is what kind of leadership makes sense for you. There was no set way to do it. It wasn't like, okay, leadership 1, 2, 3. You had to kind of experiment and figure out what you're good at, where you want to make a difference,
Yeah.
and how to do it. How old are your daughters now?
So mine are 32 and 27.
And are they leading? Are they in leadership as well?
They are in very different ways. My eldest daughter is a lifestyle coach, and she actually does a lot of coaching working with horses to help people understand how they actually show up. So she's had that business for several years, used to work for our firm. And then my younger daughter is a novelist. She writes dystopian, young adult dystopian novels, and also is a consultant at a global business advisory firm.
Wow, that's fantastic. You must be very proud of them. With the, horses and the helping people with that, how long has she been doing that?
Oh, about 5 years, I'd say. Yeah, and we do it as a firm too. We bring in corporate leaders because horses are very sensitive to energy and they mirror how we show up. So one can learn a lot about one's groundedness, communication, thinking by working with the horse. So she often uses them, not always, but often as part of the process.
So it's a leadership training. Where is that located in the US?
So that's in southern Wisconsin, right outside of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which is about an hour from Milwaukee and 2 hours from Chicago, sort of
That's
between the 2.
fantastic. I would love to see that or do it at some point too. I'll
Oh,
I'll
we'd
I'll follow up with you.
love to have you come, and we could get a bunch of people together who could learn from you too. That would be great.
That would be great, so we could co-teach. I'm in. I'm in.
Exactly.
I would love to do that.
Okay, I'm holding you to it.
Okay.
Well, that's great. Well, let's talk about Alan now. So you wrote Micro Resilience with Alan, your husband, and Alan's last name is Haynes, is that right?
That's right. So Alan Haynes and we love working together, and that's how we met. He was filming some spots, and I was in the spots, and we met working together. We like working together, but we like doing different things. We don't do the same thing, and so it's a great partnership. And I have learned so much from him, and I just have so much respect for him. But it's not all couples can do it, can they?
No, probably not. I'm sure that's been proven not. But it's so great that you can. So you wrote a book called Micro Resilience, which I love the name of that. And just tell us a little bit about that book.
So, micro resilience is about little bits of resilience. So, most people think of resilience as, bouncing back from something big, bouncing back from surgery, or, I don't know, moving your house or something like that. But micro resilience is talking about just little things during the day that you can bounce back from and be able to come back strong. And so, we give you a series of hacks in the book on micro resilience. I think there's a total of about 21 different hacks that you can use during the course of a day. It's not resilience over a period of a week or something. It's hour by hour resilience, and it helps you to be much more productive, to think of resilience that way.
Well, I guess it kind of relates to the little things are the big things, right? And just the cumulative effect.
I was gonna say, when you think of the little things that happen over and over and over and over and over again, the fabric of our lives is so much determined by how we handle those little things on a daily basis. And, your life is either easier or much harder. And it's been a wonderful lesson for me because we did a lot of research. It's based on the science behind the way our bodies work, the way our minds work, and literally, it's using the science of making things easier for yourself.
Yeah. And I know we share one thing in common, which I believe one of the greatest hacks is gratitude.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Things that you can use to help pull yourself into a better, stronger frame of mind, you can imagine are going to help the fabric of your day.
And you had a suggestion of a first aid kit for resilience. I loved that. So tell us about that.
I will tell you about it, but I will also tell the listeners too. You can go online and Google my name and first aid kit for your attitude, and there's a TED talk that I did on it, and so you can get the directions of how to make the first aid kit there, and you can use that to share with your staff if you're on a team or your family or your kids. So I just want you to be able to share that with other people
Yeah,
too if you're listening. So, a first aid kit is a pretty simple idea, though. It's you have a first aid kit in your house. If you get a cut or a bruise or a burn, you go to the first aid kit and you can fix it, and it's better, right? So the same idea with things that happen to your attitude is you can have a bad day, you can get a bad test score in school, you could have your manager yell at you, you could have a client quit, you could have different things happen to you during the day. And how do you bounce back from that strong? How can you be resilient to all the things that can happen to you at work or at home? Does that make sense?
totally makes sense. Yeah.
So we've organized the book into 5 different frameworks for resilient, how to have a more resilient mind, how to have a more resilient attitude to, negativity and things that happen, how to have a sense, how to tap into your sense of purpose to get more strength. So there's a lot of really practical ideas of how to implement this in the book. That's what I really wanted, was not just pie in the sky, but really practical things you can do.
Which of those frameworks do you think is the most challenging to apply?
I do think applying a sense of purpose to your life and using purpose to be more resilient can be challenging. A lot of people haven't really thought about their sense of purpose. They have no idea. They get through their day, they wash their dishes. You don't really think about your sense of purpose. And so that was the only framework that we had where you kind of had to go away and clarify your sense of purpose before you could use it to help you be more resilient. Does that make sense?
It does. Absolutely.
Do you know what your sense of purpose is?
Yes, I do. It's all around connecting people so that they can really unleash their potential. And that's really what led to the firm that I founded 25 years ago, Gig& McDonald, and it's also what led to the work we're doing with the horses.
Yes. So you're very clear about your sense of purpose, and it's evolving and growing over time, which is nice. And you're bringing your daughter into it. It's purpose isn't static. Purpose isn't just one thing, right? It can be a growing. It's almost like a plant. That's fantastic.
What's your purpose?
My purpose I found, and this is interesting because a lot of it is experiment, is understanding, what moves you and why do you do what you do? My purpose is really helping other people to find their strengths. And so it can be helping them find their purpose. It can be helping them find out what they're good at, what they want to do. So helping other people to uh, uh, become self-actualized in their own sense of themselves. And when you look at what I do, everything I
Yeah,
do is
I was
related
just
to
gonna
that.
say, it's all perfectly aligned. Yeah,
I think when you really love your sense of purpose, it's, I almost wanna say it's, like, revealed to you as opposed to you choose it. It's sort of like what you can't help
right.
but do because you love to do it and you're good at it and, it's what people ask you to do, and so sometimes it can take a while to kind of find out what is really gonna be the purpose that you hold on to. You could use this one thing as a purpose for a particular day or for a meeting, and it works, but for your life purpose, I think, it has to really fit, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, and as you said, it takes a while to uncover it, or it manifests itself in different ways in different points of your life. Yeah.
It's what works. Yeah, it's what works, yeah.
In your book, you talked about how positive emotions expand people's mindsets, and that helps to kind of reshape who they are. And I was hoping you could just talk a little more about that.
I'm curious too because that impacted you. What does that speak to in your soul?
Well, I'm a huge believer in positive emotions, and I think it kind of goes back to gratitude. I think a lot of the purpose of gratitude is it keeps one elevated in one's thinking and optimism. So I just was curious what you'd learned from it because I think it makes so much sense.
It does, and that the positivity, it's almost like it can lock in some of the benefits that you get by being positive. And there's something they call I can't think of the word in psychology research that they use. It's like a treadmill, I think they call it, is that when you repeatedly are using these positive emotions to lock in certain benefits and certain behaviors, it really makes it go deeper, it makes it stickier, and so that can be really helpful too. And so people tend to think of positive emotions as just like, oh, I felt good. I watched a TV show. I had positive emotions. It was great. But it's so much deeper than that. And I get that you get that. That with the way you talked about it, I think you really understand is that we can use those positive emotions to lock in learning and to lock in the benefits and the our perseverance to stick to challenges when we don't want to. And so we can really use that positivity as a tool to help us accomplish our goals and things that we want to do. It's not just watching TV on a sunny day.
No, and I think staying positive opens one's mind to possibilities, whereas one starts getting into a negative talk track, it shuts everything down.
That's right, and so you don't have possibilities, and then, it's
Yeah.
harder to solve problems when you're not thinking about possibilities and what you can do. The other thing as a leader is interesting is the positivity helps bring other people along in many ways too, is that if you're being, very, very negative, it's harder for other people to get excited and join you. It's harder to motivate other people to put their nose to the grindstone.
Yeah, it's not a lot of fun to just hang out in doom and gloom.
It's not, and it
That's for
sounds
sure.
so simplistic. It's like, "Oh, well, it's not fun, well, let's not do it."
Yeah.
But it's really about leadership, right? And it's about leading yourself, it's about leading others, and making a difference in the world. And there's a lot of great research. I mean, and you've obviously you read some of this in my book, but there's a lot of great work on this too. Is the importance of leveraging that positivity so that we can all do our best work, so that scientists invent, so that leaders lead, so that we can take the world to a better place. And that's what I'm all about is, that we can do that.
Yeah, we do a lot of work in culture. And, one of the things we always tell our clients is that it's very, very important to keep reinforcing what we're good at, because the more we reinforce to people where we're really good, the more you get more good.
Yeah, and if people are hiring you to do what you're good at, they're gonna see the results, you're gonna do good work, and, that's what you want. You wanna get in that groove.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you counsel a lot of CEOs in the C-suite. I think particularly on diversity and inclusion. Am I right about that?
I have. I've been able to have that honor. It's funny because I never set out to be a diversity and inclusion expert. I like, excellence, I like, competing, I like those things. But what happened is when you I guess when you're the one-legged Black woman, people keep thinking about me on diversity projects, and so I have studied it a lot, and I have worked with a lot of people, and I have helped CEOs to look at, how this can help them. Anyway, I'm sorry, what's your question?
Oh, no, so I was just gonna ask, like, what angle you take on that, or what kinda conversations do you find yourself having often with them?
Again, it's about how do we leverage this to compete better or to, do what you do better, to produce better, products in your company or services, how to use it to motivate people, so those are the things that interest me. So really using the diversity to understand, what's unique about each of us, what contribution do we have to give, and how does that help our companies to compete? Those are the things that interest me.
How do you advise leaders to really create a better sense of inclusion? You talked about yourself not always feeling included. What did you bring from that experience to help them?
No, I laughed because it's funny, the one-legged black, ski racer not always feeling included. I was so different from everybody else, it wasn't always easy for me to feel like I belonged places. What's interesting though is when I started, understanding the power of the different aspects of my life, it's not that I'm different from everybody, it's that I have something in common with everyone. Does that make sense,
Mhm.
that distinction?
Yes,
So when I
yes.
focus on that is what is it I have in common with this group? Because I'm so complicated, there's always something that I have in common with any group of people. There's things that I have that are different for sure, but I can always find that common ground on which, we can agree. And a lot of times it's excellence too, is that I believe in excellence and I seek out excellence and so do they. And that's certainly something that we can convene on and agree on and get excited about together.
Well, another thing that you have that's very different from most people is you're an Olympic medalist. So that definitely makes you stand out.
Thank you. I'll take it. I'll take it. Although, it makes you stand out, but at the same time, I think there's so many people who are passionate about excellence, whether you're
Mhm.
an
Yeah,
artist or,
yeah.
a mathematician or even, serving ice cream in the park. People can be very passionate about what they do. So am I.
Yeah, that's terrific. So, you've talked a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and of course, belonging as well. And we've seen a lot of changes, it seems like, over the last year or so, as there's now a lot of debates in terms of whether we should be pushing forward some of the things that had gotten such wonderful traction in the past. What do you think about all this as you're watching the news and just seeing some of the changes happening?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I think, people get stuck, and, this idea of we need to diversify and, we need to I think we get stuck. I'm a very competitive person, as you know, in ski racing and in business and everything, and so for me, it is about looking at what are people's talents? What do people bring to the table in terms of competing and winning? And there are very diverse talents that people have. And so for me, the diversity is really about tapping into all of the different skills and ideas and passions that people have that can help one company or one person to be very successful at what they do. And so it's for me, it's less about bringing in an infrastructure of the it's like the police for
Yeah.
keeping everything fair. It's less about that than it is about really being able to unleash people's talents and looking at their diverse skills and what they do. And so when a CEO or a leader of a department, can really look at the people that they have and think, how do I bring out the best in all of these people? To me, that's what you really want diversity and inclusion to look like, and for it to be fun and not the Gestapo coming in and telling everybody how to
Yeah.
live. Does that make sense?
It does because, it's also about shoring up one's own weaknesses. There's nothing better than getting people behind you who can do something better than you can.
Right, right, yeah. I was gonna say, I'm not big on shoring up weaknesses, but when you say diversity is about doing that, that makes sense to me because it's about your weakness is somebody else's strength. And so finding the people who have that strength so that you aren't trying to do everything or be everything to everybody. You can be what you're good at, they can be what they're good at, but you have a diverse set of people so you can cover everything you need to cover.
Yeah. So tell me what you mean when you say you're not a believer in shoring up weaknesses.
That, when you think about diversity as, do I try to be diverse? Do I personally try to, be everything to
Oh,
everybody?
oh, I
You
see.
can't, you
Yeah.
can't, yeah, and
Yeah,
so
no, I was thinking more where of areas where I'm not strong,
right, you
I
can
bring
have
in
other
people
people
on
who
the
are,
team,
right.
yeah, who are
That's the
stronger. Yeah.
beauty of diversity, right? Is being able to tap into other people for what they're good at that you're not. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, and I think it's wonderful. It's not easy. That's the problem, is it's not, people think, "Oh, kumbaya, everybody just be happy and love everybody else," it's not that simple. It's sometimes very difficult to deal with diversity.
No, it is, but definitely worth it, right?
Yeah,
It's sort of like
absolutely.
that, the old, adage of if you wanna go fast, go alone, if you wanna go far, go together.
Right.
Yeah,
But it's harder. Yeah, it's harder to go together, and it's harder to go farther,
yeah,
but it's so worth it.
yeah,
Absolutely. Well, this has been a real pleasure getting to talk to you and, getting to kick some of these ideas around, and I think, what we're going through with diversity right now in terms of some of the challenges, we've had these challenges before too, and I think it'll come around again, but, it's just something we have to go through, right?
right, but hopefully we'll go through it quickly.
That'd be nice, that'd
Yeah.
be nice.
Have you ever had to convince a CEO of something they didn't wanna do?
Oh, that's interesting. Have I ever had to convince a CEO of something they didn't wanna do? I think, a lot of CEOs think that they can just tell everyone what to do, and so talking to them about, harnessing people's passion as opposed to just telling them what to do, is a way to get more energy out of people. And so, helping some CEOs to think more that way is something that I love to do. Is to get them really thinking about. It's almost like how to set all your people on fire as opposed
Yeah,
to just telling them what to do.
yeah, that's great. And, I ask all my guests the same question since the title of this podcast is Let Go and Lead. What do you see that you think leaders should let go of?
I think what you just said is really powerful too, which is telling people what to do, trying to give people orders because that's what they think leadership is, or somehow they got that message along the way. But instead, looking at people and seeing what it is they want to do, what it is they're good at, what it is they can do and can contribute, and really giving people that opportunity. So in a sense, it's almost like you want to look at all your people and sort of test them as to, where are they going to fit, where what do they have to contribute, and then let them run in that direction. And sometimes, people are really in the wrong place, and they could be frustrated, they could be trying to do a good job, but they're just not. And so getting people to really figure out what it is that you're good at, what is it you really want to contribute, how can you contribute, and getting them in that place. Then you just get out of their way instead of pushing them. They're going to be pushing you.
Yeah.
I don't know, did I answer your question there?
Yeah, well, maybe so it's interesting as you talked about getting out of their way. What do you think gets in the way of leaders getting out of the way of others?
I think it's this idea that leaders are supposed to tell people what to do, and that
Yeah,
leaders are supposed to boss people around. There's some stereotypes we have of leaders that I think can be very damaging. If and at the same time, the leader's not just a cheerleader either. You're not just going, "Hey,
yeah,
everybody, have a good time." You
yeah,
you do have to set the agenda, figure out what needs to be done, figure out who can do what. You do need to put things in place to make the system work, but you also need to unleash your people to find out what it is they can do better than you can do, and what is it they can figure. If you give them the room to figure things out, and to take the lead in their own area, where are they going to take you? And when you can do that, you can really succeed beyond your own talents.
yeah. It sounds like you're saying they need to let go of their own self-talk and their old talk track of what made them successful.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, it's what different people need is different, right? And so
Yeah,
different people
right.
get stuck in their own way. And so, kind of figuring out where do you tend to get stuck. And just being able to listen and being able to learn and change and grow, it can be tough, especially if you're very successful. If you've been very successful for a while doing one thing, and then you need to change. If your company gets bigger, you probably need to change the way you lead. If your
Yeah,
company needs to change the way you operate, maybe changing your product mix, or there's different things. And as those things change over time, you may need to change the way you lead, and that can be very difficult. You probably see that a lot too, as leaders get stuck on what used to
right.
work but doesn't work anymore, right?
Yeah, it's like Marshall Goldsmith who always says, "What got you here won't get you there."
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And when you grow, yeah, when you size up your firm to different sizes, you have to change the way you lead. You can't lead a firm of 3 people the same way you lead a firm of 300 people,
right, right.
or 3,000, or, yeah.
Well, this has been a terrific conversation. I wanna thank you so much,
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
and thank you for joining us. I really appreciated it. This was an inspiring conversation. I really appreciated Bonnie's continuous positivity, and we talked about how we both value gratitude as a daily practice. There are several takeaways that resonated with me throughout our discussion. One was the importance of adaptability. As Bonnie emphasized, different people get stuck in different ways, and as situations and organizations evolve, so must our leadership styles. Adapting to change is essential, especially when previous methods and practices no longer work in new contexts. As Marshall Goldsmith has always said, what got you here won't necessarily get you there. Another key takeaway was the immense value of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, each playing a critical role in unleashing a breadth of talents and ideas within a team. Bonnie reinforces the idea that diversity is about recognizing and harnessing the various skills and passions of each individual to drive collective success. And finally, the notion that embracing diversity means recognizing our own limits and leaning on the array of strengths found in a diverse team. By doing so, we cover more ground and bring out the best in each other. And since the title of this podcast is Let Go and Lead, I asked Bonnie what we should let go of to be better leaders. She said that letting go of the damaging stereotypes that leaders are supposed to tell people what to do or boss them around. Instead, unleash your people to find out what they can do better than what you can do. I love that. I hope you enjoyed this discussion with Bonnie. Remember to subscribe to Let Go and Lead on your favorite podcast platform. And be the first to hear conversations and ideas from other thought-provoking leadership champions, including Mark Miller, Julia Hobsbawm, and Kate O'Neill. And don't forget to check out archive interviews with Amy Edmondson, Marshall Goldsmith, Seth Godin, and others. Thanks for joining, and see you on the next episode of Let Go and Lead.